In this video, I will walk you through what other programs and the saved files and then more process you can follow while writing a macro. You can watch this video as well. This one is not audio enabled, but for a quick start, you can take a look at this one. So the basic structure I already showed you on this. So let's see what we have on this image. So basic structure I already showed you. So you can type these on a macro-enable Excel and create a project and then add these. Then you can run the program and see whether you are getting the same result and see the previous videos as well. Now I would like to talk about how we can adjust rows if we have some data. Let's download this data and follow these steps, the 3 steps we have, so that we can adjust the rows of this file. So let's download this file and then let's download this one as well. If you directly try to copy paste from here to your macro page, you will see that everything will end up in one line. Rather doing that, download this text file, the format free file, and then open it and then copy the code. Okay, so let's open this Excel file where we have the data. Let's show you the file. So you can see this file is not macro enabled. So we need to open it. At first we can add the macro to enable the macro in this Excel page, or we can add it later. So on this macro, on this Excel file, we need to add the macro and save it as a macro enable file. Okay, so on this data file, you can see that the rows we have, few rows, we cannot see them properly. Previously, you learned that we can use the format and then auto fit row height. Rather, using the menu, we would like to add macro code. So let's add macro code, say Visual Basic, and add a macro. Name of the macro, let's say autofit row, and here we would like to add that code. So let's copy paste the code from the text file in here. So that means we added our code. We would like to apply this code on this Excel page. So we say that autofit them and then run this code. It selects all the cells. That means we say that start the program, name of the subroutine is autofit rows, and we said that on the active cell, select the data. That means it will select this data and then it will autofit those rows. So let's see whether it's doing the work. Select them and then run the program. You can see it auto-fitted all the rows in here. let's say we would like to do the same thing, but this time our row, our columns need some adjustment like that. Let's say, okay, that means we cannot see those columns properly. To do that, we need to add another line of code. Let's say cells dot what entire column, because it's column we are interested about, and auto fit. So let's see whether it works. Yes, because we auto fitted rows and columns together. Then save it, because it's not enabled, or it's not macro enabled. To continue saving as a macro enabled, click yes, and then close it, and then file, save as, where, let's say over here, and then say macro enabled. Let's close the file, close the file as well. Now you can see we have a new file with same name, and then we say that this time we enable the macro and save it as a macro enabled file. Let's open it, and then you can open the macros in here. So the next one we have is the importing a CSV file. Download this text file where we have the code, and download this CSV file. So we will need to write a code so that we can bring in this CSV. And then on the code, we would like to add more functions so that we can sum, average, and count some of the data variable we have. So let's say we download this too, and then we have the code in here. So let's copy the code, and then use the CSV file. So let's say where we hit the example data, the CSV file we have. So that's the CSV file. Okay. So let's create an Excel file. Excel file, and then save that Excel file. So you can save where, let's say, sorry, I need to save it somewhere. So save as little video, save as macro enable file, and say class practice 2, and save. Let's go to developer tab, Visual Basic, and then create a module. Okay. And add the code. So the address for the CSV file we have, we need to change it, because that was my desktop in my office, but currently I'm working from another office, so we need to change the location of our file where it is saved. So let's say it's saved in my lecture video file. Copy that location and replace the location, keeping the file's name. That means that's where I have my CSV file. And then I say that that's the file, the location, and then I would like to open it, and I would like to add a formula on a line. So let's say we save that, and we would like to open it in here. Select and run the program. So you can see it bring in and then open the new file, open the CSV file, and then it also calculated in C52 cell. It also calculated the total of these cells. So let's see what we have. Over here we have the C52 here. So you can see it calculated some of these values. Or you can say, no, I don't want sum, I would like to calculate the average. You can also do that. Okay, let's go back and see. So that's how we can bring in the CSV file, and then we can add some calculation. Let's save. So let's say I would like to add more code so that I can find the average and count. Rather importing the CSV file, we can save the CSV file as an Excel file. So let's go to the where we have this CSV file. So let's open, and let's say I would like to delete those. File, save as example data, okay, and then a macro enable file and save. Let's close. Let's see whether you have the macro enable page. Yes, we have it since we have this symbol. Let's open it and let's add these codes. So on the Visual Basic page, add the module and add this one, and then let's take out this CSV file code because we are not importing the CSV file since we converted it to an Excel file. Then we only added one code where we say that calculate the sum of those DBH values. If I say no, I would like to find the sum of those DBH values underneath my G or H values, and then we want to create a table in here. Okay, so we want to create a table in here. So let's say we delete them, and for DBH value we want to calculate sum, average, and how many values are there. And we would also like to add some color. So let's say we added this code, and then we say that what should be the name and what should we be adding in terms of the function is the sum, average, and count. So you need to write those. You learned how to add sum, average, and count on the cell. Now we are writing it in the macro code. So I also said that what should be the font color, what should be the interior color. Then let's apply, and now you can see we have the sum of DBH, we have the average of DBH, we have the count of this DBH. I will give you this file on the VBA page. I gave you my file. So on this file, on this XLSM, that means macro enabled file, you will get to see the code and the data file as well. So you can run, or you can remove the code and then run it again. Now we want to work on these, creating the location, integer series, simple looping, and adding serial numbers. So that means these all are basically looping we are going to talk about. So on the next slide, you will see that I talked about how we can add loops. So I will show you later how we can add recordings. That means we don't need to write a code. We can just record macro, and we can take a look at the code. Before we do that, I would like to show you the looping. So okay. That means we want to do the same thing many times. Let's say cell number 1, cell number 2, cell number 3, cell number 4. So that means it will repeat the process until we say stop. So that's what we call looping. So I would like to show you that. And in looping, you will also see that the cell that is active, so we need to mention that, where to active them, where to stop them. Same thing you will see in recording, when we start recording and when we stop, and then what to do. Everything should be written and it follows some process. So let me read this one. Do while active cell. That means start writing a code when we have active cell, and that active cell is not equal to blank. That means it has some values. So that means it's actually active cell not equal to blank. So that's what we are saying, that the cell we have is, we should have some values in there. So let's start with the simple looping, then I will walk you through how we can write some advanced code. Let's download these 4 files. And at first we will start writing some location. You saw how we can locate some cells, but in different ways we can locate those cells as well. So that's the notepad, the txt file, and we need to copy this code and then add it on a macro enabled Excel page. Create a macro enabled Excel page, and on that page add the module and save it. Yes, enable macro and save it. Okay. Let's copy paste. So we pasted. That means this is another way of adding the location. So we say that cell number 1 1, that means row 1 column 1. So this is row 1 column 1. If we move here, this one is row number 5 column number 3. That means we need to say 5 3. So we said on that specific cell write hello world. So this is a subroutine, and let's just run this code. So you can see on cell 1 1 it added hello world. If I say no, I would like to add in other column, let's say column number 6. So on column number 6, let's write it. So you can see it's written in column number 6, row number 1. And then if we want to write in another cell, I wrote it in another cell, so you can say I say 1 6 1 4, you can write that. Let's see. Okay, you can also change the row number. So for other procedure, you can see I mentioned the specific sheet number. Currently we are on sheet number 1. sheet number 1 in here, but we say that on a specific sheet we would like to add these two words. So let's say in sheet number 2, A5 cell, add that. So let's see how it works. So that means that's the coded line, and we selected it and we run our program, and it says that it's out of range. So let's see. Since there were no sheet 2, that's why it was giving us an error message. So we need to add that sheet number 2. So let's say rename, let's say sheet 3, and let's add that in here. So we have sheet number 3 over there in A5 cell. We would like to add. So let's say we are on sheet 1, but we would like to add it on sheet 3. And run the program and go to sheet number 3 and see in A5 it added that code. Now we want to work on integer series. Download this file and then go back to your Excel macro enable page, add a module and paste the code that we have in the text file. So you can see it's a loop. Let's see on the Excel page. So let's say we delete them, keep our cursor somewhere, and then we say that start an integer. That integer will go from 1 to 6. Every time it will add 100. So that means we are starting a loop. That loop will start from 1 up to 6. That means we are not mentioning what would be the exact value. So every time it will replace this I value. I will be 1 first, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. So that means at first it will be 1 1, 1 1, then 1, and then 2 1, then 3 1, and then that's how it will move in these cells. So let's see. Let's run the program. So you can see it started from 1 1. Since we say that start from 1, that means it will replace this I and then add 1, cell 1 1, cell 2 1, and then it adds the value 100 each time. So let's say we don't want to start from here. Let's remove that. Let's say I would like to start from 10 and then stop in, let's say, 20. That means row 10, it will start and stop in row 20 every time column number is 1. Or let's say this time change the column number. The column number is 3. And add the value 10 instead of 100. That means every time it will add value 100 and it will start from row 10, column 3. Let's run the program. So you can see it started from row 10 up to 20 in column 3. The value is 10. So that's how we can add some integer. So we added series of numbers and save that. And yes, saving as a macro. Let's copy the simple looping that we have in this code. And then let's see what we are going to do in there. So in the simple looping, you can see we added a code. It looks similar than the previous one, but this time we say that what should be the value of I at first. That means I is 1 at first. 1 means 1 1. That means cell 1 1. Then we say that do while up to 5. That means I is less than 6. Less than 6 value is 5. So when it reaches 5, it will stop. So that means every time it will change, keep changing. But then again, when it hit the less than 6, it will stop. Every time we say that I value will increase, because let's say I is 1. Next time I will be I plus 1. That means 1 plus 1. 2. Next time it will be 2 plus 1. That means 3. So every time it will be changing. So let's see. So you can see we started from 1 1 up to 5 1, and we stop there. So if I say that no, do not stop less than 5, stop when it's less than 11. So that means we should have more. Less than 11 means up to 10. It will show us the value. So you can see up to 10 we have the value. So let's say we want to change the value 20 every time. That means 20, 21, 22, 23. We would like to add that. To add that, we need to add the value for j. Let's say j is 1, and every time we have to add a value j, and j will be changing every time is j. That means it will be adding a value 1 every time. So you can see we use 20, but now we would like to say every time we would like to add 1 to that value 20. So let's run the program. So you can see we started from 21 and then we stopped at 30 because we added an extra item, since we would like to change the value as well. Save. Yes, make sure enabled, and then save. So the next one is adding serial number, but we would like to add it on the Excel page. Copy that code from this file and paste it on your macro. Create a macro module and then add that. And let's see, let's open the Excel page as well and run the program. You will see that it's asking you to add a value. So let's say add a value 11. So that means it's asking you to enter a serial number where you want to stop. So if you run it again, and let's say this time we say 50, you will see that it goes up to 50. So that means it's a serial number we added, and we say that this time add an input box, so that the who will be working on it, they need to add the value. So we started with the same integer number, and we said that add an input box. That means raw file we wanted to add the raw data, and then we start from 1 1 and then go up to where we said stop. So every time it will start from 1, that means from cell 1, and then go up to where you said to stop. So on the active cell, that means active cell offset. Offset means how you want to proceed. So let's say each row, when it hits any row, next time it will go to the next row. That means it will add 1 and 1 and then 1. So if it is 40 number row, it will go to the next row, 41, 43. If I say no, every time I want to jump, that means avoid 1 row. So let's delete it. Let's see. And then I said jump 1 row every time. Let's run the program. Let's say 20. Now you can see where my cursor was. It started from there, and then every time it avoids 1 and then adds the value to the next one. That means we are adding the serial number from 1 and then up to 20, since we entered 20, and then we say that every time avoid 1. It only works in the rows, but let's say every time we also want to move the column as well, or let's say do not add it on the rows, do it on the columns, first column. So that means it will be adding in there. That means every time it will add over there. So let's remove this one, or you can keep, doesn't matter. So wherever you keep your cursor, let's say I kept my cursor here, and then I said every time just change the column. So we say that maybe let's say 20 again, and you can see it moves the column, goes up to here, and it's not omitting any row columns. So let's say I would like to omit some column. So every time I say jump 3 columns, keep our cursor somewhere here maybe, and then run the program and say 20 again. Now you can see that we started from here wherever we had our cursor, and it jumps because we say that every time move. If you want to let's say every time you want to make it like diagonal values, so let's say every time change the rows and columns as well, and then run the program. Say up to 10 maybe. Now you can see, because every time we're changing the rows, changing the columns. So over here we said start the value from 1, or let's say start the value from 5, and let's run the program again. Let's do it from here, run the program again, but start from 5, value 5. So how long? We want to do it up to 10, and you can see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means it started from 5 and then ended at 10, so where it's ending. So you can say where to start, where to end, how to move from cells to cell. So you will see that I added some areas where you need to work. So I said that auto fit or adjust columns I showed you before. So you can do this part, and then auto fit, auto adjust rows and columns, add serial numbers from 0. We added serial numbers from 1. How we can add serial numbers from 0? You need to write that code. Also diagonally I showed you in the video, but you need to practice that. And how we can add average and count I showed you over here, so you can do the same. And then change loops, so I showed you how we can add loops, and in that loops how we can change the integer values. Maybe I will ask you to write a code and start the value from 10, then you have to add the value from 10, and let's say diagonally, or let's say only change the columns, then how you can add that. So you can practice them. Also in previous terms I also heard from students, and they were interested to change the locate the sheet number and then specific range. So you can add the specific range and sheet number, or let's say on cell A1 you want to add some color, or say sheet number 1, range number A1, you want to add some interior color. So that means we are referring the specific sheet and the specific cell. You can try that. So in the next video I will show you how we can record some macros. I hope you enjoyed.